Welcome in, everybody, to Extreme Radio, presented by GracePointe Healthcare. Go to GracePointeHealthcare.com. Mention your with 8-Man Extreme when you request your appointment online. You get $20 off your new patient office visit fee. GracePointe Healthcare, modern medicine the old-fashioned way. We're also sponsored by Dr. Sterling Foster. Go to drsterlingfoster.com for all your digestive issues and chiropractic needs.
Guess what? This weekend, yes, other than our announcement, which we will get to, we took Saturday off. That was me plugging something in. Had a little bit of an easy day. A little time to the family. Got some stuff done around the house. Got my toilet fixed. Some errands run. Got some stuff done. Guess what else I got done?
You got some jets?
I went and checked out IHateBuyingInsurance.com.
Good, you
I had the time to do it. I've been so busy. I've been saying I don't have time to do it. Guess what? I had time to do it yesterday. Great website. I love the website. I didn't find they had some options. I'm going to have to take a deeper look at them because obviously then it was off to Olive Garden. Solid choice, the Olive Garden. But I'm going to have to take another look at it. Guess what you need to do? Just take the first look at it. IHateBuyingInsurance.com. Our guy Joe Graves. Give him a chance just like I did. Hey, guess what else?
You can make another choice, and that's to get Jets.
To get Jets Pizza. Mm-hmm. It's the obvious choice. Come on. I mean, some of us are broke, so sometimes you got to go Little Caesars. I get that. Little Pizza Hut if you got some money. You got all your options. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't you give Jets a chance? If you've never had Jets, how are you going to rule them out and say that you don't like them? Now, if there's not one in your town.
And if they don't have the BLT, according to the James Shannon Index.
Well, they need to bring the BLT back. We all know that. But if they're not in your town, hey, get on the internet, hit up somebody and tell them, hey, we need a Jets in our town because we want Jets Pizza. But if you're in Springfield, Fort Campbell, or Clarksville, coming soon to Goodlettsville, north of town, guess what? You have one. So there's no excuse to get Jets Pizza. There's never a bad time to say, let's get Jets.
You just said there's no excuse to get Jets Pizza.
There's no excuse not to get Jets Pizza. I told you. I've been lazy. My mind doesn't work.
Before we get into the giveaway announcement, we are going to do the playoff picture later in the show, but give a verbal retraction. We want to apologize. Only 2 teams have clinched playoff berths, and that's Christian Community and South Haven Christian School. Nobody in the South has officially, on paper, clinched a playoff berth. Now, granted, it's most unlikely scenario because of the several teams and such, but at least the way we look at it, there's one scenario that can play out between 3 teams. That's Ezel Harding, Franklin Christian, and Riverside Christian that can make it a 3-way coin flip for the number 2 and 3 seeds in the South. So basically, we are in the same situation potentially as 2017, where it doesn't matter whether you have a 4-team playoff, 6-team playoff. The tiebreakers are still questionable because we don't know the designated rivalry games for the schools. Solely because of that reason, it's still nobody in the South has officially clinched a playoff berth yet, but that will be officially confirmed.
It'd be helpful if we knew those rivalry games.
Yeah, in week 9, I did send a text to the MTAC vice president on that. So if we get that in the show, I'll definitely let you know. But he definitely is a busy man on Sundays with the kid at home and such. So we'll probably get to it next week. But week 9 is more than likely when the playoffs are officially going to shape. I mean, we've got 2 in division games next week that do determine the fate of the North, and one game that somewhat determines the fate of one of the South teams, but it doesn't officially confirm anything. But
it'll also give us a good preview.
Yep.
We have a lot of good previews of potential matchups in the playoffs, so it'll give us a better idea of what we're looking at.
Exactly.
So,
but
later on, let's make sure to remember to go over how the playoff system works.
Yep.
In terms of who plays who after the first round.
We'll get to that later in the show, but of course, week 7 has concluded for the 8-man football season around MTAC and for Tennessee School for the Deaf, and it's time for us to go along on our helmet schedules, top to bottom, as
week 7
go through it again. We're about a week or two past the halfway point, but we've only got 4 weeks left of regular season football before we get to playoff time, James. And you get to
guess
see
what happens after the playoffs?
Extreme
All-Star
Chick-fil-A.
game.
Oh yes, before we
How about
get
that?
before we get to the game previews, real quick. We mentioned it. If you didn't catch the broadcast on Friday, what were you doing with your Friday night? First off, other than watching a game in person.
Yeah, I'm about to say they're probably
obviously if you're watching, you had the bell on.
Unless you couldn't do Uber or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. There's one guy whose Uber driver was out of town. But anyways, so the 2019 Chick-fil-A All-Star Game, we announced it at halftime. Special thanks to Jeff Hooper and helping us get that set
Big
up.
shout out.
I believe it's on our Instagram story right now, but we have in studio at the moment.
It's on IGTV.
Yep, it's on Instagram TV. We have in person the 52 Chick-fil-A cards. You can hear "Welcome to 8-Man Extreme" ASMR edition. So. Again, just to read off what the cards say on here as we're reading, it says a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich meal or a Chick-fil-A Nuggets meal, Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets 8-count meal that includes fries and a drink, and that's 52 of these cards that you could present at any Chick-fil-A in the nation. Redeem 52 cards, so Chick-fil-A once a week for an entire regular year. So as we said.
Do you have to do one a week?
You don't have to. It's just a year's supply.
You could do
that.
Use it.
As far as I know, you could do that probably once a visit. I think with those cards, I'd have to look at the disclaimer.
So you could basically do 3 meals.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. Well, no, because it's the sandwich and the nuggets. So 2 meals a day, 52 cards. Try to do some homeschool math. That's 36 days of Chick-fil-A meals. So you could get about
a month of 2 meals.
No, a little over a month.
Yeah, 36 days, about like a month and change.
It's like 6 weeks.
Something like that, yeah.
So a month and a half.
I'm talking about 30 days if you count that as a month, because it's 36, right? Maybe my homeschool.
They're also not open on Sundays, boss.
That's right. I went by 7 days, not by 6 days. That's why. That was
guy
where my
over
math
here,
was done.
This is the guy that goes to the Chick-fil-A drive-thru every Sunday after every Sunday for lunch.
They just opened one on because I live in Franklin. They just opened one on Highway 96.
How dare you make those people work on Sunday?
I haven't gone there yet. I haven't gone to the 96 one, but I've heard
what
really great things.
What are you even doing with your life, bro?
I'm not. I go to
Guess
school
what?
in Murfreesboro.
If they put a Chick-fil-A in my town in Springfield or in White House,
you'll be going to it a whole bunch. Either that or, of course, Monica will be asking for it a bunch.
Monica might be asking for it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't argue.
When was the last time you had the Chick-fil-A mac and cheese?
It's already pre-blessed. I haven't had it yet.
You need to. What are you doing with your life?
Speaking of Chick-fil-A, if you haven't watched that Jaron Myers Chick-fil-A song, yes. But pre-blessed.
But again, thanks especially to Jeff Hooper on getting this set up with us. So tomorrow it goes live on our website. The entry, it's $10 an entry for the free Chick-fil-A for a year raffle. Once you submit your application, it'll be a Google form that's embedded on our website. Once you submit the form, you'll be sent a PayPal invoice. Once that is paid, your entry is confirmed.
You can do as many entries as you want, too.
Exactly. And, of course, all proceeds go directly to 8-Man Extreme as we reinvest in the players and make the players the focus.
It's just like sponsorship money. It's travel costs, equipment. I mean, we've probably spent, $800-900 on equipment this year. I mean, we're constantly trying to get better equipment, make the broadcast better,
which in turn presents the players better.
Exactly. It doesn't look like the broadcast that we saw Thursday. I use broadcast very lightly. Broadcast we saw Thursday night for that TSD Alabama ASD game.
And the good news is with that we will announce the winner at halftime for the Chick-fil-A All-Star Game. We will have it open throughout the season, and we'll announce it at halftime.
Now we're going to close it at the end of the regular season, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So after
we could close it there, or we could do it through the playoffs and promote it when we're on site at places. We could have the PA guys announce it in stadium.
That's fine.
Which
the
PA
we're working through this on the air live.
Exactly. We had to talk about a lot of things. That we get into.
Friggin' Nashville shut down all these roads.
Oh, yeah, that was ridiculous. I mean, not just that, but James and I were going through tie-breaking scenarios for the playoffs and such, and I had to tell him that nobody in the South has officially clinched yet, so going through a bunch of stuff.
Thank the Lord for the whiteboard in this room.
Exactly. There's a white room here at the GracePointe Healthcare Studios. So,
speaking of our Oh, sorry.
That Chick-fil-A giveaway starts tomorrow at tomorrow morning, which is a Monday. Starts tomorrow, so you can do your entries, and that'll be open probably through the end of the regular season. We may extend it for the playoffs. Who knows? But just be sure to submit your entries in, and you can potentially win Chick-fil-A for a free year. Because, hey, even if you do one $10 entry, not only does it go to support the players, but, I mean, $10 and you can win about $8 a combo. You do 8 times 52. That's about 400 something
About a little over $400 that you
worth
could
of Chick-fil-A.
that you could yeah, exactly, for, let's say you do 3 entries, $30.
Exactly.
There you go. You could put $30 in and you could get over $400 back.
Exactly. So be sure to
And again, the more
in.
chances you do, better your chances of winning.
Be
It's
sure
just
to,
like playing the lottery.
Be sure to enter in tomorrow for that. It's going to be special.
We are not suggesting you play the lottery. I'm just stating a fact.
But, if the lottery wants to sponsor us, Tom said at 8manextreme.com.
You're all about giving back to high schoolers with scholarships. So
lottery does a really good job of that with giving back at the scholarship stuff, man. That's how I got my associate's degree. Tennessee Promise.
Anyways.
So, week 7, a lot of matches concluded. Now, of course, a lot of matches concluded.
No, they're still going on, Spence.
They're still going on. They're in what would that be at this point? Probably 25th overtime?
Yeah,
something like that.
More than that.
Following your Hamlet schedules from top to bottom, we got some really good games to go over with you. So, a divisional matchup to help shape the playoffs for the North. South Haven Christian School hosted the Bowling Green Christian Academy Warriors. We were there twice, actually, back-to-back weeks for their game against Lighthouse and Tennessee School for the Deaf. But the Patriots got it done, and Coach Z, I don't know if you're listening, but you have officially clinched a playoff berth. It's not like 2 years ago.
Now, your seeding is not locked in.
Your seeding is not locked in, but you are officially in the playoffs. Unlike unlike 2 years ago, where there was uncertainty when you guys beat Lighthouse. I still remember I was talking to him on the sideline, and everyone was thinking, we're in the playoffs. I'm like, not officially. He's like, huh? And I had to explain it was a potential 3-way coin flip if Lighthouse beat Christian Community. And he was just completely like, huh? But anyway, congratulations to the Patriots. You are the second team in MTAC to clinch a playoff berth. And your seeding is not determined yet. We'll get to that later on the show. But regardless of playoff seedings, regardless of any of that kind of stuff, 54-28 was the final score. Bowling Green managed to put up decent numbers, and you actually had me collect several numbers prior to the show here, James. And we're looking at the best defenses.
Crack the whip on them.
Exactly. Best defenses in the league. In terms of South Haven, this is up to date as of the game on Friday night, through 5 games, they have allowed a total of 146 points scored against them. Bowling Green, 328 in 6 games.
So it averages out to 29 points a game allowed by South Haven, 56 for Bowling Green.
Yeah, but with that high-scoring game in Springfield, I mean, just a great win for the Patriots. Not just to get them a playoff berth, but to play one of their great rivalry games against the Warriors. It was something special.
Well, and Manny Dang, I mean, just continues to have a dominant junior season. 8 carries, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just incredible. Added another couple catches for a few yards. Also got a receiving touchdown, little red zone touchdown down there. But just a great overall game from South Haven. Really jumped on it. He also was tied for the lead in tackles, along with Alex Martinez, who had 5, and Nathan Starnes, who had 5 as well. So, great game from both of those, from all 3 of those guys. Martinez added a sack. So, just overall dominance. Drew Atkinson, 2 fumble recoveries. Andrew Crawley with a fumble recovery. So, not only getting it done on the offensive side of the ball, but the defensive side as well. So, I mean, it was like Thanksgiving dinner, where you got the turkey and all the fixings. They played a complete game. And, for Gage Holman, one of the best players in the league, it's yes, he can be one of the best, but at some point, football is not a one-man show. And so there has to be supporting pieces around him, and they're building those supporting pieces. I mean, they've had, their quarterbacks for the last 4 years. They've been set between Tucker and then Tanner Brown. So now David Crow comes in. He's getting used to being a quarterback. He's not a senior, so that's a good thing. That's something that they can build on and develop. They're in one of those rebuilding years, and it's tough. it definitely is tough. Most of your teams know how that feels. But, just a great game from South Haven. They're at home, homecoming, senior night, all that good stuff. So a big win for them.
Yeah, especially big as they clinched a playoff berth, hoping that they can host a playoff game for the first time in their MTAC tenure, going on their third year now there. But they go into a bye week, Patriots do, before they have their big divisional matchup on the road against the Tennessee Heat. And as for the Warriors, they've got to turn around real quick. They have an extra day of rest, but at the moment, 6 days from now, they face off against the Tennessee Heat. One of the other North teams was active. Speaking of the Tennessee Heat, they hosted the Riverside Christian Academy Knights on a Friday, their first Friday game of the year at MJCA, where they play their games, and 51-15 the final score. Riverside
61.
Oh, says on the website 51.
No, well.
Yeah,
We
I
actively,
asked you if the scores were
update the website, and so that's one of the things we have to update. We're constantly working on it. Seriously.
Okay, so in that case, that is 61-15. So total 348 points allowed by the Tennessee Heat in 7 games defensively, and for Riverside Christian, 142 points allowed in 6 games. Not anything implicative of the playoffs. I know that last year it was setting to be a potential MTAC Bowl matchup before the playoff ineligibilities popped up. It was going to be a great match, but it's one of those games, of course, that with the Tennessee Heat, it's that when you see those scores, it's I believe the box score for that game was more early on, was when the Tennessee Heat started fighting back a little bit, and then is where Riverside just kind of pumped up the gas and decided we're not gonna let them fight back.
Yeah, I mean, it was a dominant performance. 28 points in the first quarter for Riverside. Another 12 in the second quarter. Just continued to play. Who really showed up, and I got the chance to watch the game. But a guy who showed up for me, not necessarily that he's had a bad season, but he kind of had a little bit more of a coming out party, was Ray Hunt. I might be saying his name wrong.
I think it's Raymond Hunt.
Raymond Hunt, yeah. Well, I was trying to give him the grown-up name. Anyway,
Raymond.
But, I mean, David Black, how about that, I call it the dark connection, black to black. You don't want to go night connection because that's, kind of corny. That's
right.
Anyways. But
anyway.
Dark connection, I mean, I'm looking at it here. That'd be 3 touchdowns, maybe?
Something like that.
I'm getting these stats pulled up right now. Should have had it done already, but, of course, Nashville decided to close all the roads, so didn't get a chance to do that. But
again, we just figure out the stuff that mostly on the air. I mean, whenever we're rushed, we usually just figure out the stuff on the air.
Okay, so here you go. Jay Krubelski in his closer role. Great job on the night. Threw for a touchdown. David Black, here you go. 8 of 10, 293 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. His longest throw went for 90 yards.
Wow.
Ray Hunt showing up. Jay Krubelski, like I said, had a touchdown carry. Crutcher Ezel, 3 catches, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. Sammy Morris, who has had a phenomenal senior year, 3 catches, 142 yards. He had 2 touchdowns as well. On the defensive side of the ball, you look at the tackles. I skipped over the tackles. How did I skip over the tackles?
You're the guy who usually always talks about the tackles and the O-line defensive line.
Okay, so Michael Whidden, 13 tackles. So Whidden showing up. I believe he's a senior. I'll have to double-check that. But Riley Hall, 3 tackles for a loss. So just overall another team with a complete game for Riverside. And they keep rolling. Of course, they got to bye this upcoming week. And then the big matchup.
Now, of course, before we move on officially, that was the other thing where it was kind of up in the air. Of course, Jonathan Knotts was given a game suspension by the league for that Tennessee Heat game because of the hit he had on Adam Hubble in the FCA game.
Whidden is a junior.
Yeah. You're saying
Michael Whidden. I said he was a senior. He's
I thought
a junior.
Jonathan Knott. So he was given the suspension and such. But we were up in the air about if there would be repercussions given or such. But of course, great responsibility taken by Creasy in the post-game interview when he said, I haven't seen the film yet, but we are going to take actions on our part regardless of what the league does and such. Because, I mean, it's the same thing that you and I said. Was it uncalled for? Yes. Was it
Was it dirty? No. Was it uncalled for? Yes.
Exactly.
That's how we look at it. That's how I look at it.
But that shows the strength of Riverside is that even if they're down one of their seniors, they could
senior linemen.
It was down one of their senior
quarterback
linemen.
had plenty of time to throw. I mean, 290 yards. Yeah.
Yeah, they could still
plenty of time.
Good beat up there. For the Tennessee Heat, they have an 8-day rest before they have a tough home game to help determine the fate of the playoffs as they host the Bowling Green Warriors. And for Riverside, they take a bye week, and then it's their final South game that's really going to help shape the MTAC South playoff berths, and it's on the road at Lancaster Christian. We look, of course, the other games. Christian Community, as they always do, this is probably their rivalry game. If we're talking about playoff tiebreakers and such, it was against the Franklin School Knights. They anytime they face off, it's usually a really close game and a really close score. This one, not so much this time around. 48-12, the final score. The Classical Knights at home just. The helmet schedule was incorrect. It was at CCS. Okay.
CCS is homecoming.
Yes, it was Christian Community's homecoming, so Classical tried to travel up there. Anytime they face off, it's usually a really close game or low-scoring game. Not the case here, just Christian Community proving even more that not just why they are the number one seed in the South, but potentially putting a stamp more on the dynasty isn't over just yet.
I was kind of questionable about Micah Jones to start out the year. And in this game, 3 touchdown passes and 2 touchdown runs. I mean, shout out to Jack James for sending the updates. But every time he was texting 10, 10, 10, I'm like, who is he, Ty Dillinger? I mean, come on with all these 10s. But just a dominant game. Hubbard had a touchdown early, so it was 20-6. You thought, maybe they'll get back into it. No, just overall, just a great game. Hubbard did have 2 touchdown passes, but the real icing on the cake, 79-yard kick. Now, of course, CCS is an 80-yard field. So 79-yard kick return for a touchdown by Brooks Pugh, pretty much starting at the 1 and taking it all the way back, which is, I would think it was a little bit harder on that field. But here's the thing about CCS, and really Ezel with this upcoming game. I'll talk about a little bit later on. CCS has not lost that many games at home. It's a tough field to play on with it being a regulation 8-man field. There's only 3 of them in the conference. So, some of these teams aren't used to that kind of a field.
I mean, to be fair, it's not just on the field. It's the environment of May Flanders Field because the fans get really into it.
But the field impacts it. You have to play. You can't have as wide of a game as you would have on 100 by 52.
Well, I mean,
because it's 40. You lose 12 yards.
You do, but I mean, look at South Haven's home record. I mean, look at their home record on a 40 by 80 field. Look at Bowling Green's.
What's
home
wrong with South
record.
Haven's record on an 80 by?
No, I'm saying you look at it. It's tough to. You're saying it's tough to win at home, to win at May Flanders Field because of that 40 by 80. Look at the home records for South Haven. Look at the home records for Bowling Green.
Yes, the field size is the same, but I think it's a different feel because of how spread out. Martin Luther King Park Field is there in Springfield. It's a little more the atmosphere, the feeling is a little more spread out. Whereas at CCS, it's like you said, the environment does play into it, but it's a very confined feeling. So I think you just immediately your mind says that you have to game plan differently for that. So okay, so see, South Haven does play on a 52-yard field in terms of width. Yep. The length is 80, but it's 52 wide. So that's a little bit different.
It's a smidge, but at least for Bowling Green, they got a 40 by 80. So I mean, it does play a factor into it. I'm not downplaying that, but I'm saying that there are 3 other teams in the league that have a 40 by 80. So it's a lot of
2. Now that we know that South Haven is 80 by 52.
So it's 2 that are 40 by 80 officially, but it's not just the field; it's also the environment.
Now that I'm thinking about it, having been to Bowling Green, I don't know that field is only 40 yards wide. That field feels a lot wider than CCS. CCS might have the only 80 by 40. I could almost promise you Bowling Green has an 80 by 52. But anyway, so it's tough to go in there and play. Bowling Green is 52 as well. Shout out for the updates. So Bowling Green is 52 as well. So CCS is the only true 80 by 40 field in this conference, in this state, and it's a totally different feeling. Totally different to go 80 by 40 as opposed to even 80 by 52. So it's tough, and teams are having to adjust to it. They are. So we'll find out how Ezel responds to it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Eagles respond, especially because, of course, with Christian Community, they have the new kids on the block, essentially the Eagles of Ezel. Potential preview of the playoffs, depending on how
new
things
kids on the
out.
block.
So of course the Colts host the Eagles, and as for the Classical Knights, they've got a tough game. Even though it's at home, it's a tough game hosting the Lancaster Christian Academy Knights in Franklin. The only team that was on the only team that was on a bye week. The only team that was on a bye week was the St. Andrew Swanee Mountain Lions. The other teams that were active, there was Franklin Christian Academy traveled to Smyrna to face off against the Lancaster Christian Academy Knights, and assuming the website is right on this, Lancaster Christian Academy,
that's right.
They did exactly what we expected them to do. Just came in, scored early, scored very high, and kept their defensive stand. 68-6. The final score, I believe Franklin Christian got the touchdown they got it at the very end of the game, and then Need on the 2-point try. But 68-6, it's just, what else can really be said about Lancaster Christian? I mean, 50-plus points average per game in any of the games that they're playing at this point. And it's just the only team that it seems like is going to stop them in terms of the South is going to be Ezel Harding, and that's coming up in the final week. But kudos to the Lancaster Knights for getting it done.
All right, Riverside's got 5 wins in a row, though. They're hot. They're like Andy Mineo. They're coming in hot. They're good. But, I mean, you're right. That's a massive matchup there at the last week of the season. But Deuce Bragg, another 5 touchdowns, 5 touchdown passes. Let's see, two of them to Hargrove, 2 to Moore, 1 to Robbins. You had a couple of touchdown runs from Jordan Horde. Of course, Zach Dooley threw a touchdown to Carpenter there at the end of the game, 75 yards. So kind of getting a little score in there, keep them from being shut out. But just a dominant performance for Lancaster. They're on their home field. Great show. And, man, they're looking good. They're looking good. That again, I cannot understate the enormity of that matchup the last week of the season, Lancaster, Ezel. But Lancaster, don't overlook Riverside. Don't overlook Riverside.
No, of course not.
Because that would just completely throw a wrench in everything. And if you're Riverside, guess what? The game's not played yet. The clock hasn't hit 0. You can still win the ball game. Yeah. Don't let Lancaster become the new FCA for you guys, or Webb actually.
Oh yeah,
because Webb pretty much dominated Riverside the whole time they were in. I'm more than positive they did. I mean, it was always a big game for Riverside. They just couldn't get over that hump. Don't let Lancaster become that if you're Riverside.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, for Riverside, you should not estimate that. You should not underestimate them. You should estimate them. You should not underestimate them is the proper words there. For Lancaster Christian, they continue their 3 games in a row in the South where they travel to Franklin Classical School. As we mentioned, for Franklin Christian, they have an interesting game between the Alabama-based Freedom Cowboys, and that's at home in Jim Warren Park. We got one more game we got to cover, but James has that look on his face as he usually does.
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
What were you going to say?
No, I wasn't going to say anything.
You sure?
I'm good.
All right.
I'm good.
Sweet. The game that we were at was the matchup between the 2 teams on Bell Road. The Battle of the Bell lived up to the hype, at least through the first and second quarter. Final score in that game, 66-34, a combined 100 points for the first ever Battle of the Bell. Just a fantastic matchup to see between the two. It was fairly close in the beginning. Lighthouse kept fighting back on the several touchdowns that the Eagles got, but it just ended up that it's the same thing that we saw in the first home game for the Eagles when they faced off against the Riverside Christian Academy Knights. It's the same thing of They are fighting close. They're keeping it tight knit, but then eventually some fire gets put into the rest of the players for the Eagles. Some motivation comes from the sideline. They say, "All right, let's turn on the Jets. Let's shut them down. Let's not let them get any more scores." So, but for Lighthouse Christian, fantastic battle by them. I mean, it's a tough loss, especially in the Battle of the Bell. But for the Eagles, they just keep rolling.
Hooper's a baller. The quarterback for Lighthouse, he's only a sophomore. He's going to be one of those players to keep an eye on for the for the rest of his career. They've still got Christian Sharp, who's a junior. I mean, they've still got some dudes. But shout out to Jamari Lindell, who came back, had a touchdown the other night. Just a great performance by Ezel. Kind of what you expected. I mean, Lighthouse didn't go away until until the clock hit 0. I mean, they were still putting up points. Hooper, let's see, they scored the last 3 touchdowns of the game. Hooper threw 2 touchdown passes, or 1 touchdown pass rather. He had a touchdown run. So just an overall great performance by Ezel. Lighthouse, you still got some dudes who can do it. So don't give up. Don't give up. But, so many onside kicks there. So everybody was getting the ball at the 40, 50-yard line. Maybe after a couple plays, you're at the 40. But you had a 41-yard run by the quarterback, Derek Griffin. He threw, let me make sure I'm getting this right. He threw a touchdown pass. He had a 50-yard run by Braxton Coleman. 3 touchdown runs by Derek Griffin, rather. Mm-hmm. He threw a 50-yard touchdown to Kadarius Price. So, I mean, they've got it. They've got the weapons they need. Again, Ezel Lancaster, it's coming. But if you're Ezel, who's you got Classic Ezel, they got CCS this week. You gotta be ready. You got a game plan for that field. It's a big matchup. It really is a big matchup.
Yeah, it's a huge matchup for sure.
And I also want to throw in there, I know we didn't go over it, but real quick, I just want to throw in there, tough loss for TSD down at Alabama School for the Deaf. I did get a chance to go to practice on Monday. I was up in the area, and I had to spend the night, so I decided to go by practice. Had a great time. Great environment there, great scenic view. We were going to try to go Saturday. Didn't work out, but we'll go there later in the season, and I'm excited to go over to Knoxville, check the game out. But tough loss for them. They get back in the saddle Saturday with Mississippi. We'll talk about that. But Spencer, let's go over the playoff. You want to go over the playoff standings instead of the actual standings? So
yeah, since we're official.
Let's go over the playoff picture.
You know what we forgot to do? We forgot we forgot the Alabama School for the Deaf.
I just said something about it.
Yeah, that's right. You did.
I just said something about it. So let's go over those playoff standings.
All right. So I am in correspondence right now with the MTAC vice president about potential rivalry tiebreakers and such. But as James gets our guest on the show for today, the head coach of the Freedom Cowboys, here's what we've got for the playoff bracket as updated today. Did this a few hours ago, actually. So, Christian Community, of course, they clinched the number 1 seed in the North. They are the only team to have clinched home field advantage through the playoffs. And, of course, they only have the 1 game with it being a 16 playoff. So, congratulations to them, of course, on that. The only other team who has clinched, you see a new notation there. It's what it looks like a tent, basically, there, because the South Haven Christian School Patriots, that indicates they've clinched a playoff berth. So, congratulations to them on getting the job done. Now, if the season were to end today, this is what it would be, simply because of in-division standings. The Ezel Harding Eagles, because they are 3-0 in division, they would be the number 1 seed. It would technically be a coin flip between them and Lancaster Christian, because they're both undefeated based on in-division win percentage. And then it would be Riverside Christian and then Franklin Christian at the 2 and 3 seeds. But basically that Lancaster Ezel Harding Eagles matchup in the final week of the regular season is going to determine who gets to host the semifinal and who gets to host a wild card. For that number 3 seed in the North, if the season were to end today, it'd be the Tennessee Heat with the recent loss of Bowling Green against South Haven, and it's coming up this Saturday. Whoever wins that Heat Bowling Green game, that's going to be a huge determiner. If the Heat win on Saturday, they are officially in the MTAC playoffs for the 2nd year in a row. If Bowling Green wins, then it would have to be, as far as I'm aware, it would have to be if Bowling Green wins and then the Heat wins against South Haven, it's a three-way coin toss. Depending on the other tiebreaker we have been told about is the rivalry game with an interdivisional matchup, and I'm still corresponding right now to figure out what those specific tiebreakers are, and we'll probably get that later on as the playoffs get closer. But regardless, at least for Bowling Green, in order to have a chance at the playoffs, they have to get the job done on Saturday, and they need a little help. But for the Tennessee Heat, they just have to win, and if they beat South Haven, they get to host a playoff game.
Got to handle your business.
And, of course, the Riverside Christian Academy Knights are number 3 in the South. But even with this Lancaster-Franklin Classical game on Friday, it doesn't really shape the playoffs per se for Classical, because that'll just put them at necessarily 0-3. It would take a lot for them to get in the playoffs, but if Classical wants a shot, they'd have to get the W. So, oh, that's funny. So the MTAC vice president, he's corresponding. He said, if we tie, I'm not sure if that's actually. I'm sure it's a joke, but he's saying if we tie, we will have a chili cook-off between the head coaches to determine the seeds. Please,
I'd be down for that.
Please let us be present. We will broadcast it. We will show the ingredients.
I will be the taste tester.
James will be the neutral taste tester.
Me and my dad gut will be the taste tester.
I seriously hope, if that's a legitimate tiebreaker, we've got a place to host it here in Franklin. We'll have a chili cook-off. We'll host it here.
I would drag those two. We are not web. We are not dragging the two schools 20 minutes apart all the way down here.
No, if it's a three-way tie. Well, actually, you know what? We probably could do it up in either Springfield or Nashville or something.
We would pick a place closer to it. But anyways.
But, I mean, they could host here. There's a neutral site. Whichever chili tastes closest to Jets Pizza wins.
I'm down. Well, then that puts the pressure on Jets, though, to create a chili pizza.
Oh, yes. Hey, man.
It's possible. They did a BLT.
Yeah, they did a BLT. They might do a chili pizza. Who knows? But basically, that's what the playoff bracket is looking like right now. Of course, the Colts, they do have a guaranteed the home game in the playoffs. But as James and I were debating before the show, no South team has clinched a playoff spot officially because of tie-breaking scenarios.
On paper.
Week 9 is when that is finalized, because the only in-division South game is Classical and Lancaster Christian, and that only determines if Classical has a reasonable shot at the playoffs or not. They're not mathematically eliminated until they take another loss in the South other than Lancaster. But basically, that's what the playoff bracket is, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we know to the best of our knowledge, and the tiebreakers and such. So it would be Colts number 1, Eagles number 1, coin flip between them and Lancaster. And it would be Riverside number 2 seed, 3 seed FCA. Patriots have clinched the playoff berth. They'd be number 2 if the season ended today. Tennessee Heat would be number 3. So playoff-wise, we'll know in about a week, 2 weeks' time until everything's official. So that wraps up our talk of the playoffs. Hopefully that gets you all updated on such. And speaking of which, we got to get you updated on a special guest we have in studio. As usual, it's always
on the phone, rather.
In studio through our technology stuff. It is always a pleasure to have coaches on the show to get word from not just around the league, but around the states with 8-man football. And we have the head coach of the independent team based out of Huntsville, Alabama, the Freedom Cowboys, Mr. Kyle Collins. Mr. Collins, Coach, how is it down in Huntsville?
Everything's good and everything's sunny today, so it's all good.
Coach, I'll jump right into it. Of course, you guys sitting at 3-3. You had 3 tough losses, 1 to a Tennessee team, and then 2 down there in Alabama, Evangel and Ezekiel, all on the road. But a big win Friday night against Banks Academy. For folks not familiar with Alabama football, there's some really great teams down there. Freedom is one of them. Of course, you got the CFA and the ACSC. But with that Banks Academy win, how big was that kind of carrying some momentum into 2 straight Tennessee games?
Well, it's absolutely huge because we're on a 3-game losing streak. We've been kind of getting beat, trying to find our way, and we needed a win for confidence, if nothing else. Banks is a new program that has a ton of speed and athleticism, and I was really, really concerned till about 30 seconds left in the game, really. But no, it was huge. We needed the kids were reacted the right way, have kept working, and we needed to win, especially going into this big game this week.
Yeah, a close one, 20-6. So a big win there for you guys. You guys have some really great players that are showing up, and even in some of the losses, well, there goes the notification there. In some of the losses that you guys took, you guys still showed up. Jaden Hermina, 440 yards rushing, 9 touchdowns. You got a couple guys tied with 36 tackles, linemen grading out 70%. How big have these guys been to kind of keep your players focused, keep them in line, and kind of keep the ship righted with some big matchups?
Well, anytime you get on a losing streak, leadership's huge. And Jaden has been with the program 4 or 5 years. He has grown into a solid little ball player. He's the kind of kid you build a program around. Always working, always trying to learn, always trying to get better. So that leadership of those guys was very meaningful because, as losing begets losing sometimes, and that's just all about attitude. And, I preach to these guys all the time. It's not about what's happened yesterday. It's all about what's going to happen today and tomorrow. So those guys have been solid for us, keeping the enthusiasm up, fighting hard, working hard. So it is unbelievable what a group of kids can do that coaches really can't do on their own.
Right. Now, you guys being independent, of course, kind of setting your own schedule up. You guys don't have set opponents you have to play. And playing a record 5 teams from Tennessee. I know that over the past several years, going back, you guys have always kind of played teams from Tennessee, playing a few new teams this year, Riverside, Bowling Green, the Heat, teams that, you guys hadn't really played before. What kind of attracted you guys to – I mean, I know you're right across the border, but what kind of attracted you guys to want to pick up some of these games? And, does it kind of help you guys gauge where you're at as a program versus some really good teams from another state?
Well, to be very honest with you, we've always liked playing teams up there in the Nashville area in the MTAC. We always felt like they were very well coached, good programs, and they kind of are a measuring rod for what kind of team we have. They're always competitive games. Those coaches in that conference up there always do a great job, and we always are challenged every time we go up there. Us only being about 30 minutes from the Tennessee border, it's really as close to getting to the Nashville area as it is the Birmingham area. So our schedule is usually split, kind of half and half schools in Alabama and then other half in Tennessee. So to your point though, playing Tennessee Heat, playing Franklin Christian, those games usually tell me what kind of football team we've got.
Now, I do have to ask you, and I don't know if MTAC would ever go for this, but they do have a team in Bowling Green, Kentucky, right? Another, again, 30 minutes across the border, maybe 45 minutes across the border. So, proximity-wise, it's almost it is closer than maybe picking up a team in Memphis or Knoxville or Chattanooga. But with you guys being as close as you are, if the league ever threw out an offer to join the conference, would you guys consider it?
We have talked about that in the past. We're certainly receptive to the idea. As I've said, I'm always been very impressed with that conference and how they've run themselves. I mean, we played Classical Christian, we played Sacred Heart. I don't know that they're in it anymore. South Haven. So we've always had really, really good relations with those guys up there. So we certainly would be receptive.
Yeah, it's that as we refer to it always on the show, MTAC is essentially the SEC of 8-man football with the high competition play we see. And you mentioned it yourself. You've played them before, and you're playing them this Friday night, Franklin Christian Academy. They always put up a tough challenge against you guys. I believe FCA was one of the first teams that Freedom Cowboys started to play.
2000. I'm looking back at 2005.
It was the
first time they played.
2005
on my birthday.
It was a long time ago. But what's the big message you're giving to your guys? Of course, FCA coming off of their loss against Lancaster Christian. So coming off of a 62-point loss. So what's the big message you've got for your guys, especially coming off of your big win?
Well, listen, it's Franklin Christian. That's really all I ever have to say. Every time we've played those guys, we know we're in for a dogfight. We've been on the losing end a few times and the winning end a few times. And there is no disgrace in losing to that Lancaster team. I went and scouted, I think it was Tennessee Heat against Lancaster earlier in the year, and I came back overly impressed with that team. So when I saw that score, it really didn't faze me. I think after doing a little bit of scouting of Franklin Christian, I think it's going to be a very, very competitive ball game. But as far as my kids are concerned, I really don't have to say anything. I just say, hey, we got to go to Franklin Christian. I've got a couple of ex-ball players on my coaching staff, and they do a lot of the talking when you talk about Franklin Christian. Everybody knows that's a really, really good program, and they'll be well coached, they'll be prepared, and we'll have a work cut out for us.
Well, and I'm looking back. If Max Preps is correct, you guys played in 05 and 06, and you guys, or FCA rather, won both those games. 06 would have been a close one, 20-14. But then in 08, 16, and 17, you guys have won the last 3 games. So it seems like you guys have a little momentum in terms of that matchup coming in. And, like I said, with you guys, the great season that you're having, FCA coming off a huge loss, seems like you guys could come in, pick up the win, and then head into a massive game with one of the better teams up here in Tennessee, team that's clinched the playoff spot, Christian Community, who you guys also have a ton of history with, not just in terms of regular season, but postseason too.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, playing you guys up there in that MTAC group is always a challenge for us. Christian Community, like you said, we've had a long history with those guys. It has, we have been up there, guys, and we've gotten it taken to us. We've gotten wins. We've been on both sides, but every game that we seem to play with those guys is a challenge. It's a slugfest. It's a dogfight. And so, tomorrow at practice, that'll be the first thing I say is, Friday night is going to be a 4-quarter football game. And we got to line up and be prepared to play 4 full quarters of football to have a chance to win, especially up there at their home site.
Now, you guys, I mentioned some of your team leaders that are coming in pretty high in terms of stats, but I'm going to ask you to give us some spoilers and then maybe a little bit of a heads up. Who are some guys that we can look forward to kind of keep an eye on Friday night?
Well, we've got some young kids playing in skill positions that are just now starting to develop into pretty decent little football players. We got a kid, number 18, TJ Lorio, who's got a lot of speed. He's only 13 years old, but
wow.
he's growing into a really good little football player. The problem with young kids, especially in this league, as you may know, is that they don't have very high football IQs.
Right.
So it takes them a little while to understand the game, the speed of the game, and the nuances of the game. From some just athletic prowess, they look good getting off the bus, but you don't win many games getting off the bus.
No.
So I would say TJ is a guy to look out for because he's got great speed and great mobility. He's our kickoff return specialist, and he's taken 2 to the house this year. And if he can get a crease, he can get there. And I think on defense, we've got a couple of guys that. Joshua Butler is a young kid, number 33, who plays absolutely like a wild man. Now that's good sometimes, and that's bad sometimes. Okay, I always tell my kids, if you're gonna make a mistake, make it full speed. Well, let me tell you, when he makes a mistake, he makes it full speed, and everybody knows it. But he's also a kid, very aggressive, gets after the ball. The main thing is he loves to play, and it shows. So, we really are not a team of great individuals. Anything that we do, any success that we have will be because we got a bunch of kids playing together.
Now, I like to keep up with Alabama football and the way that each team is looking, where they sit in the standings and matchups. You guys obviously have played a ton of teams. If there's one team in Alabama that you would just like one, I know you guys took a tough loss to Evangel, took a tough loss to Ezekiel just this year, But is there a team overall, and even, I know the CFA has a couple teams in Mississippi. Is there a team that you guys would like one more crack at? If you could just take one more shot at a game with them, is there somebody that comes to mind?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Both Ezekiel and Evangel are two of the best teams we've played this year, and probably two of the best teams we've played in a while. You guys know Evangel. They are a really, really serious program. We've probably got a long history with them. We probably played them more than we played anybody. Would I like another crack at them? Yeah. Maybe give me a few more weeks before we do that. Down in Alabama, Alabama's known for football and, for the last 100 years. And kids grow up playing football, and all their heroes are football players. And so there's a lot of enthusiasm and there's a lot of good programs. But I would probably tell you that Evangel program is head and shoulders above most that I've ever played. And I've been doing this 15 years.
What do you think about that quarterback, Tyler Henderson?
I think he needs to graduate and go ahead early. I don't know if there's a graduate transfer program in high school, but he needs to move on.
He needs to become a homeschooler, huh?
We played them last year, and we were going into the fourth quarter. It was 36-36, and I mean, we were playing really, really good, and that kid just took the game over, and so. He's bigger, he's stronger, and he's more accurate now. He's really a good football player. Really,
we got to see him firsthand a couple weeks ago with Ezel. He lives up to the hype for sure.
Yeah,
he really does. Like I said, I've been doing this 15 years in this 8-man league, and he is probably one of the best football players I've ever had to compete against.
Now, I'm going to ask you a selfish question because I'm looking at a matchup on October 11th, Friday night. You've got Russell and Ezekiel, of course, a cross-conference matchup. They played earlier in the year. Russell kind of ran away with the game. But I don't know how much you know about both these teams. Obviously, you played Ezekiel. But between Russell and Ezekiel, October 11th, I'm kind of looking at that game. I might want to check it out. What do you think?
Well, I've seen Russell on film, not in person. And I played against Ezekiel. Let me tell you what I can tell you about Ezekiel. When they line up 8 kids, they're all really good little football players. And they are an extremely physical football team. I mean, they'll hit you and laugh about it. So we got out there. We didn't have a good night, but when on the opening kickoff, they racked my returner and set the stage. And here's the only thing I would say. They were not as precise as I think they need to be. Now, they may have developed to become a lot more precise, but they made a lot of tactical errors, self-imposed errors. If they've got those cleaned up, they'll be tough to beat.
Well, they've cleaned something up because that's been their only loss so far this year. They've won 4 in a row and got a big game going into, this Friday, rather. Or maybe Saturday. No, it's Saturday with Lighthouse Homeschool. But anyways, I'm good.
Yeah.
Former Auburn great Kyle Collins. A lot of people don't know that.
Oh yeah.
If you're an Auburn fan, I'm a Tennessee fan, so Coach. So I can tolerate you guys. Of course, we beat you last year, but
we got a Roll Tide fan watching the show. I don't know if this is going to
go well. We don't mention that.
Well, here's the first thing. If you think I was a former Auburn great, then you've got a very, very bad memory.
To me,
However,
well, first off, I never saw you play, but for a guy that didn't play college football and you did play college football, kind of raises the bar a little bit.
Well, I always tell everybody people say, "Hey, meet Coach Collins. He played football at Auburn." And my favorite line is, "Have you heard of a guy named Bo Jackson?" And of course, everybody says, "Well, yes." And I say, well, then that's the reason you've never heard of me.
That's a good one. I'll have to. I can't remember that because I didn't play college ball. But Coach, a couple of your guys are looking good. Maybe see them at the All-Star game. Maybe we'll bring a couple guys up.
I would love to have the opportunity to get some of my kids up there. It's a great venue. I've read about it. I've seen it on social media, and I think it'd be fabulous. And we would love to try to work with you on that.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you taking the time out of your Sunday to come on the show and such. And the moment we hear that high school is going to have unrestricted free agency, we'll see if we can get you in contact.
Or graduate transfer.
Or graduate transfer. We'll see if we can get you in contact with Henderson. Maybe pick up a star quarterback.
You'll be the first text I send.
Let me know. I need one.
Absolutely. Thanks,
sure.
Coach.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That was Coach Kyle Collins, one of the greatest interviews we've had this year.
He's a good dude. He's been doing this a long time.
Oh yeah,
long time.
And
a shout out to Freedom Cowboys AD Kevin Gochman setting it up,
of course,
helping it make it happen. Shout out to him.
And you know what we've been doing for a long time? We've been previewing games for weeks and
Let's
weeks
do
and
it.
weeks. So it's time. We are only 4 weeks out from the playoffs starting, or technically 4 weeks left of regular season play before the postseason starts for MTAC, and it's coming right down to the wire, James. It's coming right down.
It's coming in hot.
And like I said at the start of the show, James and I debated about how nobody in the South has clinched
the running joke is, when we leave the studio, we'll argue about something this week. We've always argued about something, and it's not just during the week.
Yeah, exactly. Not just during the week. Even when we're walking to the car, we'll sometimes start debating about stuff. Probably on the way out, we're going to start debating about something. Probably going to happen. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Helmet schedules, top to bottom, let's do it. So South Haven Christian School is the only team on a bye week for the MTAC North, and we look first at Lighthouse Christian School coming off of a tough loss, still looking for their first win of the season. They collide with the St. Andrew Sewanee Mountain Lions, a rematch of the 2017 MTAC Bowl, and both of them are somewhat in the same situation where where both of them, or at least more so for Lighthouse, it was kind of a mid-season. They had some good moments, but just couldn't finish the job in clutch situations, and both of them ended up where they didn't want to be, and that was the MTAC Bowl. So now they're in this situation where it's been a struggling season for them. They haven't been able to finish exactly at the right time, and now both of them are playing for their first win of the season. And James, I think you got to choose a winner between the two losing teams.
I said that Lighthouse was the best 0-4 team I've seen. I think they're the best 0-5 team I've ever seen. Sewanee, you're coming off a 2-week break. Of course, you had the forfeit to Hazel. You had a bye last week. Hopefully, guys like Caleb McLean has been able to clear up the concussion situation a little bit, get on the right track. Cam Robinson on defensive line. He's got his hands full with Dedrick McLean this week. Aiden Hooper's a baller. But you know what? That Sewanee defense, I saw them against Riverside. I didn't watch the Lancaster game, but I saw them against Riverside. And the defense just, Riverside only scored maybe 2-3 offensive touchdowns. There were some crazy non-offensive touchdown defense and special teams. But if you're Sewanee, if your defense can shut down the people they need to shut down, you'll be all right. I am picking Sewanee in this one to beat Lighthouse Christian. Again, I'm announcing the pick today. I announced it 3 weeks before the season when I pre-jamboree, pre-season. 3 weeks before the first game of the season is when I picked this game. It's when I announced this game. You can go back and listen to it.
And
I am re-announcing the picks today. I'm sticking by this pick. I picked Mountain Lions over the Lions up on the mountain.
That's a hot take straight from the oven, James. That's a hot one.
Coming in hot.
The Colts of Christian Community, there's nothing – it's kind of hard to say there's nothing really left for them to play for in the regular season because they clinched number 1 seed in the South.
You want to keep winning.
Exactly. They want to keep winning. They've only taken 1 loss on the regular season, and that was to Lancaster. And now they've got a good test of what's going to happen for the playoffs potentially, or a chance to improve on a bunch of things from what they see on this Friday night. At home, at May Flanders Field, they're colliding with the Ezel Eagles. And we've had this marked on the calendar for a while. We're not broadcasting it, but we've had it marked on the calendar as a potential shootout matchup between the two. It's going to be really interesting. A
lot of people, including the NHSA, I know I talk to Hank all the time. I say all the time, maybe once or twice a week. But he's keeping an eye on this game. This is a big game in terms of national rankings. I don't remember exactly what the rankings were. I think it was maybe 5 and 8. Number 5 versus number 8. Listen, I said, Ezell, if you're Ezell, you've got to do something, even if you have to change your practice field. Change your practice field to adapt to the only 40-yard field in terms of width in the state. You have to get used to that. That being said, I'm picking Ezell Harding to beat Christian Community in White House and continue to roll.
Potentially, when was the last time a team who started out in 8-man football, like their first 8-man football season, went undefeated in the regular season? Who was the last team to do that?
It hasn't happened.
Has not happened?
Has not happened.
Ezell might have.
You'd have to go back to like 2007 or 2008 for that to happen.
Prior to MTAC for me.
Yeah.
So Ezell might be
Or
the first
even,
one?
yeah, prior to MTAC or some of the early teams.
Ezell might be the first team to do it.
They might be.
It depends on, of course, it'll come down to that.
Lancaster came dang close last year.
Yeah, Lancaster is coming pretty close too. It could be either Ezell or Lancaster this year because well, actually no, not Lancaster because this is
It's their second
season,
year.
but
Yeah, so they
Ezell,
could do it in their first year, but they got a big test. I think they passed the test this week, beat CCS.
At least this week. And looking at Lancaster Christian, they've got a divisional matchup with the Franklin Classical School Knights. The Knights, they've got 2 W's on the season. They're in one of those rebuilding phases, but they've got a really tough matchup. This is one of those matches where you know they may be put in the same situation as the Mountain Lions, where they had a bunch of their players banged up, potentially injured, especially with how fierce of a team Lancaster is and how much depth that they have. It's going to be a really interesting game to see down in Franklin. The clash of the Knights, and I don't think it's going to be a good night for Classical.
There's going to be some real estate announcements. It's going to be that Lancaster owns Franklin because they beat Franklin Christian this last Friday night. They are going to beat Franklin Classical this Friday night. Book it. Lancaster over Classical.
It's going to be a tough matchup. Who knows? Classical might pull off the upset.
Classical's going to score. They got Josh Austin. They have to score.
Especially if they use him correctly, as you said on the broadcast last week. Just depends, of course, if Classical knows what's at stake. It's a potential shot at the playoffs, and they have to get the job done against Lancaster if they want a chance at it. So Friday, Franklin Christian, the Freedom Cowboys. We're broadcasting it. We're doing that on Friday.
Going to Franklin.
First time that you're going to
Jim Warren.
You're going to Franklin. I'm just staying in town.
Hardy,
you're doing the same thing. You're doing the same thing as last week. Well, on Saturday.
What's that?
You're doing the same thing as last week.
Yeah,
on
but
Saturday
you did a couple weeks ago. I stayed in my hometown. You came up.
Yep.
So
yep, exactly.
we're just swapping.
Yep, swapping. But for the Falcons and the Cowboys, anytime they collide, Coach Collins said it best. They are a well-coached team. They always keep it strengthened. And even looking at Franklin Christian, you look at defense in the last 5 games, they've allowed 176 points, at least on defense-wise. Don't have the stats for the Cowboys and how many points they've allowed defensively, but Franklin Christian, that's in 5 games against top teams in the league. Of course, they had South Haven, their forfeit game to Swanee, but against teams like Christian Community, Riverside, Lancaster, and such, a lot of them, all of those teams who are able to score quickly and put up big numbers and such. But it's going to be really interesting to see. Ready to go to that third level scaffolding at Jim Warren Park. It's going to be a great matchup. But regardless of whether we're broadcasting it or not, it's time for you to make your pick.
Well, Freedom has allowed 211 points in 6 games, so kind of on up there. But they're coming off a big win against Banks Academy down there in Birmingham, I believe. 20-6 was the final. Banks is one of those good teams there in Alabama. They're 3-2. They didn't have football for several, I think like 30, 40 years. They just brought it back this year. They're having a great season. Freedom, they were slipping a little bit. Of course, they beat the Tennessee here early in the season. And guess what? They're going to beat Franklin. No, I'm sorry. I said that wrong. I think that it will be close. I'm not picking scores because I like to be surprised. Mm-hmm. But you know what? It's homecoming. It's a big game in Franklin. I'm going to pick the Falcons on this one.
Ooh,
not that I'm saying this off the cuff. I picked them way back. But I'm taking the Falcons on this one.
And that's FCA's homecoming, too. It coming down the stretch, We end up doing a lot of homecoming games, James. It's not like it's not coincidental.
Homecoming and senior night.
Yeah, it's coincidental, but homecoming and senior night, we always
I like
end up doing-
homecoming games. Longer halftime.
They'll honor Daniel Holcomb in his senior year. They'll honor.
Well, it's
Daniel
not senior night for them.
You said it was homecoming and senior night.
No, I said it was homecoming. I said we do a lot of homecoming and senior nights.
Okay. Yeah, it was 2-1 for Ezel.
Can we get some Q-tips in here for Spencer?
Probably. I probably need to swab the fat out of my ears. Saturday.
You don't get fat in your ears. What?
That's a saying. That's a saying that my brother kept telling me. He said, "Get the fat out of your ears." It's not a legitimate thing.
What?
Of like actually having fat. I know. I just bring that.
Senior night for FCA's against Ezel Hardin, by the way.
Yep. That's against Ezel Harding. So it's homecoming night for Franklin Christian this week. So it'll be a great game to broadcast. Great environment for any of the homecoming games we go to. That game, that Ezel Lighthouse game, Battle of the Bell, was a homecoming game. That was a great environment. It was really great. The fans were into it.
I do enjoy going to Ezel. It is a good place to go. I don't know that it's. Don't take this wrong. I don't know that it's my favorite, but it is in the top.
Yep, we got an announcement coming on Wednesday in regards to that too. So keep your social media chirps on that. We got.
Oh, this is talk about some breaking. I know what you're talking about.
Yep, he looked confused at me at first.
There's some breaking news coming.
Breaking news, but regardless, Saturday. We were going to try a double header, but because they moved back their games, we won't be able to do it this time around. But
they moved up the game time.
They moved up the game time. Tennessee School for the Deaf is going to be colliding with the Mississippi School for the Deaf. We were going to do a double header for that game, but unfortunately we are unable to do so. But
if the game starts at 2, worst case 3-hour game over at 5, and it's an hour and a half, hour and 45-minute drive, just can't do it.
Yeah.
Now, if it was at 2, like originally,
then we could have kept
or at 1 rather. If it was at 1 o'clock, or like we originally thought, then we could do it, but can't pull it off.
But for the Tennessee School for the Deaf, they've got a home game against Mississippi School for the Deaf. It's one of the interesting games. I believe you got your pick for that one.
Listen, this is a long rivalry. They've been playing each other for a long time, especially with some of the North Carolina and Georgia, like Coach Cooper said a few weeks ago on the show, with them canceling their seasons or shutting their programs down, rather. This is really one of the longer rivalries that TSD has. It's homecoming. It's right there at their field. I had a great time Monday. It's beautiful. Go check out our Instagram on our highlights. The whole story of the practice, what I saw, just the whole thing. It's a blast. All that being said, you know what? I'm going out of state. I am taking Mississippi School for the Deaf to top TSD. I think TSD's coming off a tough loss to Alabama, and I think that the Bulldogs get it done in Knoxville.
We'll see if the Bulldogs can get it done. And the second game we're doing, this is within a span of 3 weeks, we'll have done 5 games. And this Saturday, it's a big one. It's a divisional matchup. According to the NHSA 8-man rankings as of today, the number 32 ranked team, Tennessee Heat, they host the number 31 ranked team, the Bowling Green Christian Academy Warriors. And I already previewed it in the playoff picture, but if you're Bowling Green and if you're the Heat, you have to win this game to keep your playoff hopes alive. Bowling Green, if you get the win, then you have to hope that the Heat loses. So you have to hope that the Heat wins so that you can force that 3-way coin
exactly.
toss. If South Haven wins, I believe. What are you
getting to?
I'm trying to remember their in-standing record. So if the Heat loses this game, they would be 1-2, and if South Haven wins, Tennessee Heat would be 1-3. Bowling Green would be at 2-2. So you have to hope that. So Bowling Green, you have to win. You have to win and hope that South Haven. There are going
to be some huge Patriots fans next week if Bowling Green can pull this off.
Yeah, if Bowling Green pulls this off, the Patriots are going to be coming out because Patriots get the W. And that means the Bowling Green Warriors get into the playoffs. But if the Heat manage to win, it's a 3-way coin toss, and nothing is confirmed on that. But we're going to be broadcasting that game. It's going to be fantastic between the Heat and the Warriors, one of the northern rivalries that's dated back to when Bowling Green started their program, I believe back 2015 was when they started. And in 4 years, what they've been able to do and win an MTAC Bowl and potentially now they are in a rebuilding phase, unfortunately, because of losing some great seniors. But with them potentially in the seat to play for an MTAC championship or give themselves a chance to play for the championship, it's going to be special. But regardless of playoff implications, any of that kind of stuff, the James Shannon Index has a clear winner.
Bowling Green is going to go into Mount Juliet. Mount Juliet. That's what they're going to do.
You always correct me on this thing. I know
we
how to
need
pronounce
Chad
this.
Withrow to officially tell Spencer how to pronounce that.
I know how to pronounce it. It's Mount Juliet.
Bowling Green is going to go into Mount Juliet.
Yeah, Mount Juliet.
Mount Juliet Christian Academy, Ed Suey Field, and guess what?
They're going to lose.
They're not going to burn it down. They're playing with fire with this game against the Tennessee Heat. Heat win. They're gonna put their destiny in their hands next week against South Haven. I'll tell you who I pick in that game next week, but they're gonna handle business this Saturday night against Bowling Green, picking the Tennessee Heat.
Tennessee Heat gets the win. They automatically punch their ticket to the MTAC playoffs for the second year in a row. But if they lose, regardless of whether they win or lose, they'll either force a coin toss or they'll get into the playoffs along with Bowling Green.
Depending on what the rivalry tiebreaker is.
Well, no, it's that if the Heat wins against South Haven, then it's that three-way tie. According to Coach Flanders, it's a chili cook-off. So it all comes down to that.
A three-way tie for the chili cook. So it's not
exactly.
between CCS. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
It's a chili cook-off for the
between Coach Zimmerman, Coach Scott, and Coach Brown.
Probably.
Okay, so here's how I break it down. Coach Zimmerman has the experience of having to feed multiple people.
He
has a lot of kids.
Yeah, not only that, but he does a lot of the fundraising stuff for South Haven.
I don't know about that. I'm just saying he has a lot of experience in terms of cooking for a lot of people.
Yep.
Ryan Scott has that that overall he's got some kids too. He's from California, but he's been in Tennessee. I think he brings, I don't know what he brings. He brings that unexpected element to it. Coach Brown, I think Coach Brown could put all premium ingredients in that chili and really just raise the bar. So that's your tiebreaker chili cook-off.
And yes, we are telling you right now, if there is a chili cook-off officially, James Shannon will be the judge.
I will volunteer. Without pay, I will be the judge. Let's name a place. Let's do it.
Yep.
Let's see, Springfield, Mount Juliet, Bowling Green. I say we do it in White House.
Sure. We do it at a neutral site.
Let's do it.
We do it at White House. Chili cook-off.
CCS. If that happens, let's set it up.
Exactly. That'll be fantastic.
Has to be in a crock pot, too.
All the chilies have to be in a crock pot.
That way we don't pull a Kevin
What's
with
that
the pot.
one rap song that has the crock pot lyric?
I don't know.
I don't remember what
You totally missed that joke, though.
Say it one more time.
That way you're not Kevin with the pot.
Oh, that's horrible. Anyways, that's horrible. You could tell he's a father. The terrible jokes. So that's what we're looking at for Week 8. The North playoffs are going to be potentially solidified or more up in the air. According to the James Shannon Index, they're going to be locked. But for the MTAC South, it's still another week. Unless there's an upset by Classical, it's another week of uncertainty for whose playoff fates are determined. But like we said, doesn't matter about playoff season or anything. We're here in Franklin for homecoming night. The Falcons host the Freedom Cowboys from Alabama. And then Saturday, that big divisional matchup between the Warriors of Bowling Green and the Heat of Tennessee. Just a reminder, everybody, the giveaway for free Chick-fil-A for a year opens up tomorrow on our website. Tomorrow morning, you can submit your entries on that embedded Google form on our website. Won't be up till tomorrow. $10 an entry. Once you cover the PayPal invoice when it's sent to you, you'll officially be entered into the contest.
Get in it.
And just
so y'all know, we cannot enter it. Myself, Spencer, our families, JD, his family,
none of
cannot
us
enter it. So
cannot and will not.
Will not. Yeah, exactly.
So it is only our viewers and only the viewers. So so that means you have more chances because you know how many entries James would put in?
0, because I'm broke.
Yeah. Well, you would probably put in $10
from all the Jets pizza I'd be eating.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you'd probably put in $10 just to get a chance at Chick-fil-A.
It'd have to go through the boss.
Family. Yeah, she'd probably put in 50. She'd probably put in 50.
She'd put in however much she wants to.
Yeah, she'd put however much she wants to. That's going to wrap it up for Extreme Radio for today, presented by GracePointe Healthcare. Go to GracePointeHealthcare.com. Their new redesigned website. Request an appointment online. If you mention you're with 8-Man Extreme, you get $20 off your new patient office visit fee. GracePointe Healthcare, modern medicine the old-fashioned way. Sponsored by Dr. Sterling Foster. Visit drsterlingfoster.com for all your digestive issues and chiropractic needs. And speaking of which, James is broke because he loves Jets Pizza so much.
I do, and guess what? If you have some digestive needs, it's probably going to be from eating all the amazing Jets Pizza that you will put away if you end up getting one. And by the way, if the necessary people are listening, bring back the BLT pizza, please. Anyways, so because I would have some digestive issues after as much of it as I would eat because, big guys. But, well, my son would do quite a bit too. But, anyways, Jets Pizza. If you're in Clarksville, Fort Campbell, Springfield, coming soon in Goodlettsville, north of town. There you go, boys. But no matter where you are, if there's a Jets Pizza, it's never a bad time. Just say, let's get Jets. And guess what? When you have all those digestive issues,
what do you need?
You're going to need some insurance. So go check out our guy, Joe Graves. IHateBuyingInsurance.com. It's super easy to remember. I mean, 8-Man Extreme is super easy to remember. GracePointeHealthcare.com. Kind of hard to remember, but guess what? IHateBuyingInsurance.com. Not hard to remember. Our buddy Joe Graves, he will get you, at least give him a chance, see what he's got, see what he can bring to the table for you. Just look at your options. It's like an option offense. Just look at your options.
Week 8 officially begins and concludes on Friday, and concludes on Saturday. We are 4 weeks of regular season play away from the playoffs starting for MTAC. Just a reminder again, tomorrow the Chick-fil-A for a Year giveaway starts. You can go on our website, register for that. Wednesday, we've got a bombshell to drop for you in regards to the postseason. It's going to be fantastic to drop that on our social media. And of course, James, is one more shameless self-promotion before we sign.
No, just announcements. This past Thursday night, we did not do an Extreme Talk. Just, as busy as it's been, took a little time. This upcoming week, we got a doubleheader. We're going to take this week. We're going to get some episodes on there for y'all. It's just a matter of getting the guests set up, getting them recorded, getting them edited. So, but we will be getting some episodes up there for y'all. And fan voting for the All-Star Chick-fil-A Extreme All-Star Game will start in a couple weeks. So keep that in the back of your thought hopper.
The Extreme Talk is going to be more positive, right?
Possibly.
Possibly. You just need to be more positive, according to some of our dedicated viewers.
Oh, come on.
That'll wrap it up. Again, homecoming night for the Franklin Christian Academy Falcons. Will be there for the game against the Freedom Cowboys, and then the tough divisional matchup between the Bowling Green Christian Academy Warriors and the Tennessee Heat. It's going to be a really good doubleheader weekend for us. My voice is going to be shot again, but granted, it's going to get shot down the stretch for the playoffs.
Exactly.
Great plays that are going to happen. But that wraps it up for Extreme Radio today, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again for tuning in. Again, Falcons, Cowboys on Friday, Heat, Warriors on Saturday. For James Shannon, all the hardworking men and women they make 8-Man Extreme successful, I'm Spencer Thompson.
JD
We will
Young.
see you on Friday and Saturday.
See ya!